Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere a little grim. But don't worry, you're already doomed. The torchlight flickers against a ceiling of stone, low and uneven. With water trickling in from some untraceable place, the air smells like rusting metal, spoiled meat, and something worse fear, probably. You wake up on a straw mat that has seen better centuries, and your shoulder is already sore from sleeping long. You're underground, somewhere beneath the roaring heart of Rome's most glamorous nightmare, the Colosseum. Except no one here calls it glamorous, or the Colosseum. You don't call anything. You're just trying not to shiver too loudly. There are no windows, no clocks, just the faint echo of footsteps that sound far too practiced. You're one of the newest novices in a long line of unlucky men. At some point, maybe yesterday, maybe a week ago, you were recruited, which is a polite way of saying purchased or sentenced. The specifics depend on what story you tell yourself to sleep at night. And let's be honest, sleep hasn't been going great. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, comment with where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You were promised glory, or maybe you promised it to yourself. But right now, all you've got is straw poking into your thighs and a chain round your ankle. You've landed in a Ludus, a Gladiator school. Though the word school is doing a lot of optimistic lifting, here, there are no chalkboards, no recess, and the only test is whether you're still alive at the end of the season. Spoiler, most aren't. It's early morning, which you can tell only because the instructor on Easter, officially. But everyone just calls him that guy with the stick, comes down the hall and bangs the rod against the iron bars. You jerk, awake even though you were already awake. It's less rise and shine and more rise and survive. Your cell has no door, just an iron grate, and it swings open with a moan that sounds oddly like your joints. The floor outside is sand, not beach sand, not soft sand. This is gritty, dusty. Sticks dash to dash your dash sweat dash like dash a dash jealous dash X sand. You step out barefoot and immediately regret it. The stones underfoot are cold, uneven, and probably haven't been cleaned since Nero was in a good mood. There's no warm-up. You're handed a pail of water, not to drink, to splash on your face and rub the rest on your body as a wash. It doesn't help much. You still smell like fear and faint onions. The other new recruits look just as uncertain, though a few of them already bear scars that suggest this isn't their first rodeo. One guy's nose points into directions. Another has a tattoo that reads Fortuna, which seems ironic considering he's here with you. The Lonista surveys you like someone trying to guess which fruit in the market is already rotten. He points at you and grunts. That means follow him. So you do. He leads you down a curved hall toward the courtyard, the Palestra. It's where all the magic happens, if by magic you mean back-breaking combat drills, endless shouting, and enough dust inhalation to make your lungs nostalgic for a volcano. And there it is. The training yard, a square of misery surrounded by columns, weapons stacked against a wall, a small raised platform for instructors to yell from. You will become very familiar with this place. You might even start dreaming about it if you live that long. Today's first task, shovel sand. Not metaphorically, literally. The arena needs leveling, apparently. Rain came in last night. No one knows how. Doesn't matter. You're part of the solution now. You grab a wooden shovel, and it splinters almost immediately. Good luck asking for another. By midday, you're coated in a beige paste of sweat, dirt, and regret. A horn blows, not for lunch, for drills. You don't get to sit. You don't get to complain. You just get to learn how to not die. You're handed a practice sword, which weighs about 3 times what you expected. That's the idea. If you can, swing this. Maybe one day you'll survive swinging the real thing. Your arms are already aching. The Lanista barks something in Latin. You don't catch it. But the meaning is clear. Swing or be swung at. You practice slashing the palace a thick wooden post wrapped in old leather. It hits back, not literally, but emotionally. It doesn't move. It doesn't yield. And after a few dozen strikes, neither do your wrists. Your hands are blistering already. The guy next to you is wheezing like a collapsed accordion. No one helps. That's not how this place works. At some point, someone trips and falls into the sand. The Lanista doesn't react. No one does. You step over him and keep training. Welcome to your new moral compass, not my problem. You keep moving, keep swinging, and keep regretting every life choice that brought you here. Meanwhile, your phone is dead, but so are your neighbors. By evening, you're led back into the corridors. Not to your cell, to the bath. If you thought this might be a reward, think again. It's less spore and more soup. A stone tub filled with murky water and at least a dozen other grimy men who look like they've just been exhumed. The smell is thematic. You lower yourself in, biting back every instinct that says no. The water is lukewarm. The ambience is shouty. And the guy next to you keeps muttering to himself. At least it's not cold. You try to pretend that's a win. After bathing, which is really just marinating, you're handed a new tunic. It's damp again. Historians still argue whether these tunics were washed regularly or just soaked in vinegar and passed along. Either way, this one smells slightly less like death and slightly more like pickles. You shuffle back to your cell. Legs heavy, eyes stinging from dust. There's a bowl waiting. Barley porridge again. It's warm, which is suspicious. You eat it anyway. Hunger beats dignity every time. As the torchlight dims and the corridor falls quiet. You lie back on the straw mat. Same place you woke. Same. Straw poking the same spots. Only now, everything hurts just a little bit more. Tomorrow, it all happens again. Except worse. Your eyes are open before the footsteps come. Though you still flinch when the rod clangs against the bars. Sleep wasn't restful. It was more of a truce, your body temporarily stopping its complaints because it ran out of energy. To keep filing grievances, you stretch, cautiously, because every joint now has its own opinion about how yesterday went. The corridor is dim again. The same washed-out ochre flicker from torches set too far apart. You're starting to recognize the different smells. Mold, ash, damp linen, and what might generously be called shared humanity. And now, you've got something new to look forward to. Your first proper outfit. Proper being a relative. A guard tosses a bundle into your cell. It lands with a damp plop. You hesitate, then peel it open. Inside, one coarse tunic, likely unbleached wool, and a leather belt that's too short by any reasonable standard. There's also a piece of armor, sort of. A single greave for your right leg. Not both. That would be luxury. You get one. Asymmetry is fashion here. Apparently. You dress slowly, each layer sticking slightly to yesterday's bruises. The tunic is scratchy, too short, and smells faintly like vinegar and despair. The greave doesn't quite fit, and you wonder if it's meant to be ceremonial or if they're just out of sizes. You try to tie the belt tighter, but the buckle snaps off and clinks to the floor. You wear it anyway. Dignity isn't an accessory here. outside. The Lonista doesn't even look up as you emerge. He's more focused on the lineup. Today, the new recruits are being grouped and categorized like produce. There are murmurs about what style of fighter you'll be. You catch phrases like secutor, retiarius, murmillo. Historians still argue whether these roles were assigned based on build, skill, or just sheer spite from the trainers. You don't get to pick. That's adorable. You're pulled aside and handed a small round shield, a dagger, and a net. Great, retiarius, the fisherman. Class, you've just been assigned the least armored and most ridiculous-looking job in the arena. Your opponents, usually secutors, heavily armed gladiators with full helmets, long swords, and shields the size of dinner tables. Meanwhile, you look like you're about to audition for an interpretive dance about sea creatures. Your net is stiff, weighted at the edges, and smells like the Tiber River's lonelier cousin. You're told to practice throwing it at a wooden post and then stabbing the post, which sounds easier than it is. The net keeps folding over itself, the weights dangle, and at one point you actually manage to trip over it. Twice. The dagger is sharp, at least. Probably because they don't want to waste time resharpening it between practice debts. Your instructor, former Retiarius himself. Missing 3 fingers and an alarming part of one ear watches you with the same energy as a cat. Watching a bug walk into a fireplace, you suspect he's already written you off. He shouts advice in Latin, none of which helps. You manage to wrap the net around your own arm and nearly stab yourself trying to untangle it. It's fine. You're just warming up. After what feels like a very long time, you're granted a break, which means you get to drink lukewarm water from a communal ladle and sit on a stone that somehow manages to be both hot and damp. You try to breathe through your mouth. That helps slightly, not with the smell, just with your mood. You look round, everyone's in various shades of grimy. One guy has what might be a blacker or a really unfortunate shadow. Another is already missing a tooth. No one complains. Complaining here is like trying to argue with fire. It just makes it angrier. Then, you're fitted for a helmet. Sort of. Retiari don't get proper helmets like everyone else. You get a headband. Maybe a shoulder guard, if they're feeling generous. You don't look intimidating. You look like a costume party reject who misread the invite. But, strangely, you start to feel something between resignation and pride. Because somehow, you're still here. You haven't collapsed yet. You've figured out how to throw the net, without choking yourself. That counts as progress. The instructor waves you back. This time, you're paired with a fellow trainee who's pretending to be a secutor. He has a wooden sword and a full face covering helmet. You don't know his name. Doesn't matter. Your job is to stay alive and try not to get concussed. The mock fight begins. You circle. He charges. You toss the net. It goes wide. He swings. You duck. The net catches on a rock and flies back toward you like it's seeking revenge. You manage to grab it mid-air accidentally, but still and jab forward with your dagger. It bounces off his chest plate. Harmless, but he stumbles. The instructor claps once. You are not sure if it's sarcastic or encouraging. Maybe both. You train like this for what feels like hours, over and over. Swing, throw, dodge, stab. Your arms ache, your eyes sting. Sand gets everywhere inside your sandals and your armor. In places you wish were still private. Remember, that damp tunic, it's still damp, only now it's clinging to your ribs in ways that feel almost personal. Eventually, the horn sounds. You collapse not heroically, just gravitationally. Your back finds the ground faster than your dignity. Just, you lie there, breathing like a fish out of philosophical water. and stare up at the fading sky. Dinner arrives in the form of a small loaf of bread and some olive paste. No utensils, of course. You eat with your fingers, like a raccoon that knows. Latin. The bread is dry, the paste oily, and together they form something almost like a meal. You're too hungry to care. Back in the cell, your straw mat welcomes you with its familiar unevenness. Someone down the corridor is snoring like a wounded ox. Another is muttering prayers. You curl up, knees aching, and stare at the wall. It's the same wall, same cracks. But tonight, you see it differently. Because now, you're officially a Gladiator trainee. Congratulations, you wanted this, remember. And the tunic still smells like pickled feet. You are awoken not by the clang of the rod, but by the smell. Something pungent and warm is wafting down the corridor. If wafting is what happens when something slams your nostrils awake like a wet towel to the face, you sit up, bleary-eyed, and realize someone has brought food, or at least a food-shaped object. It's breakfast, though calling it that assumes optimism and a working definition of meal. A god slides a bowl into your cell with the grace of someone tossing scraps to a stray dog. Inside, a grayish mush of barley, water, and something unidentifiable floating near the edge. Possibly a seed, possibly not. You hesitate, then take a bite. It's lukewarm, gluey, and faintly sour, like someone tried to make porridge but gave up halfway and got distracted by a dead squirrel. You chew slowly, not for flavor, just because you're stalling. Next to the bowl is a cup, not of water, of vinegar wine, yes. You're starting the day with sour wine on an empty stomach. Welcome to the breakfast of not quite champions. Historians still argue whether this vinegar mix was meant to aid digestion or just keep you slightly buzzed and less likely to cry before noon. Either way, it doesn't help. You sit cross-legged on the straw mat, sipping what tastes like old socks soaked in pickle brine, and wonder again what life choices led here. Somewhere, some version of you once said, being a gladiator sounds cool. That version didn't picture this breakfast. Once the bowls are collected, it's back to the yard today. The sun is already brutal by the time you step onto the sand. Your shadow looks tired. The training schedule has changed. Today is formation work. Not just one-on-one practice, but mock group fights. Because apparently, you need to learn how to fight in formations. 2. Gladiator School. Now with team-building exercises. You're placed in a rotating line with several other retiarii. You're told to advance on a row of mock secutors, each armed with a woodman sword and matching grimace. The net is your main weapon. Again, you sigh at this point. It feels more like a mildly judgmental bed sheepdog. The idea is to entangle, distract, and strike. Ideally, you never let the opponent get close. But guess what? They always get close. Especially when the net folds in on itself mid-throw and you're left staring at a man with a stick hand. A lot of unresolved rage. You get hit. Not hard, but hard enough to sting. The Lannister nods. Good. Better to get hit now. He grunts, then die confused later. That's comforting. You're told to reset, again and again. The repetition is dizzying. Muscles burn in places you didn't know could get sore. Your forearm cramps. Your neck aches from looking sideways. Your net keeps tangling on your sandals. Meanwhile, your instructor yells helpful things like "Fester, don't be so alive-looking." By midday, the sweat has turned your tunic into a wearable swamp. The belt is digging into your hip. You try to adjust it and immediately drop your net. You pick it up, muttering apologies to no one in particular. Another throw, Another miss. Another thwart to the ribs. It's like Gladiator jazz rhythmic, unpredictable and painful. Lunch is served as a break in the chaos. A boiled egg and more barley paste. You sit with your back against a wall, legs stretched out, trying not to fall asleep between bites. The egg is overcooked, the paste is underflavored. Together they form a deeply unremarkable harmony of nair. Someone next to you offers to trade his fig for your egg. You nod. Thankful, the fig is dry, chewy, and full of seeds. But it feels like dessert. The sweetness shocks your taste buds. You savor it like it's cake. Meanwhile, two trainees argue about whether they saw a mouse in the storage room. One swears it had 3 legs. The other says it's the Lonista's pet. After lunch, the gear changes. You're fitted with real weapons blunted, but still steel. The net now has proper lead weights. Your dagger is heavier. This is the pre-fight phase of training, where they test how you handle the real deal without immediately impaling yourself or someone important. The sparring begins, and this time, your opponent doesn't hold back. A former secutor, now a coach, looms in full gear. You circle, you sweat, you throw the net with all the desperation of a man trying to trap his problems and stab them to death. It works almost. The net catches his arm. You move in with the dagger. He dodges and shoves you. You land on your back, blinking at the sun. Still better than the breakfast. You try again. This time, the net wraps around his ankle. He stumbles. You slash forward. Your blade grazes his thigh armor. He nods once, silently, and lets you retreat. You feel a strange flutter of pride. Or maybe it's just hunger again. Hard to tell these days. Training winds down at dusk. You stagger back into the corridor, legs like tree trunks with regrets. Bath time. Once more, the same soup of humanity. You enter the water, now tepid and vaguely greenish, and try not to think about what's floating near your elbow. Someone is humming, another is coughing. You close your eyes, pretending you're anywhere else. Maybe a warm room, a soft bed, indoor, plumbing. Meanwhile, your elbow knocks into a stranger's knee and you open your eyes to reality again. Drying off is an exercise in patience. Towels are rough linen rags, damp from prior use. You dab yourself, then redress in another tunic that seems determined to introduce new smells to your skin. Dinner arrives. Lentils, slightly undercooked, still better than the paste. You eat in silence, mentally counting how many days you've been here. You lose track somewhere around 5, or 7, or 2. Time has become a bowl of porridge, formless and sticky. Back in your cell, the mat somehow feels smaller than usual. You curl onto your side. The tunic sticks to your back. You scratch at your calf. It's red, probably a bite, hopefully from something human. You close your eyes. Your dreams are strange tonight. Something about a net full of fish, except the fish are all shouting insults in Latin. When you wake, the bowl of mush will be waiting. You wake up to silence, which is somehow worse. No clang, no grunts, no footsteps yet. Just a stillness that wraps around your sore limbs and whispers, something's different. You sit up slowly, straw stuck to your cheek, and rub the sleep from your eyes. The mush isn't even here yet. That's unsettling. Then it starts. The sound. Drums, low, steady, like someone thumping on the underside of your rib cage with padded fists. You're being summoned not just for drills, for ritual. Today is pre-fight inspection day. Your body is property now, and property must be assessed, catalogued and cleaned, sort of. The corridor begins to stir. Cells creak open. The guard, with the broken nose, gives a nod that may be approval or indigestion. You rise, slowly, legs humming with dull pain, and step into the cool, torch-lit corridor. Your greave clinks with each step. It's the only piece of gear you still trust, though. It doesn't fit quite right, and it left a rash last week. You're herded, along with others, to a chamber you haven't seen before. It's round, echoey, and smells faintly of oil and blood. An official sits at a stone table he's clean, disturbingly clean. Robes of crisp white, rings on his fingers. He doesn't look up. Instead, he gestures toward the center of the room where a scale and a scribe wait. First, you are weighed. You remove the tunic. Cold air hits your skin like disappointment. The scribe scribbles, numbers, notes, something about bone structure. You're not sure. No one talks to you. You're a slab of meat with a decent throwing arm. Next, the medicus, the so-called doctor. He squints at your eyes, taps your knees, lifts your arm and sniffs your armpit like he's inspecting an old goat. He pokes at your bruises, lifts your lip to check your teeth, and mumbles something about good enough. His tools are a mix of tweezers, vinegar, and a sponge. You're not reassured. Then, the priest. Yes, there's a priest. A small man in draped linen who murmurs blessings over your head in a cadence that sounds halfway between a lullaby and a death sentence. He touches your shoulder with a palm dipped in what might be wine. Or blood. You choose not to. Ask. Finally, the bath. Not the usual tub of communal regret, this one's ceremonial. A shallow pool you step into alone, under watch. You're supposed to be purified. You feel damp and slightly cleaner, but mostly just watched. Then, clothes, fresh tunic, lighter fabric, sand-colored. It fits better. That should be a good sign. It isn't. It means you're being prepped. Not for the big arena yet, but for the vivarium, the training theater. A public dress rehearsal where new gladiators perform mock combat for warm-up crowds. It's like off-Broadway, but with more blood and worse seating. Your net is inspected, retied, weights checked. Your dagger is sharpened by someone with one. I am no visible concern for your safety. You ask no questions. You nod when spoken to, and otherwise pretend to be a statue with low blood sugar. Lunch is half an apple and some cheese. The apple is mealy. The cheese is soft in a way that cheese probably shouldn't be. But you eat, because empty stomachs make for worse performers and worse survivors. You're escorted to the vivarium mid-afternoon. The sun outside is blinding. You squint, and immediately your foot finds a loose stone and nearly sends you sprawling. A guard chuckles. You recover. Barely. You remember to breathe. That helps. The vivarium is smaller than the Colosseum, but it's still vast. Dozens of stone rows, a sandy pit, and the overwhelming smell of sweat, roasted meat, and hot marble. The crowd is already there, families, vendors, bored aristocrats sipping watered wine from bronze cups. They're here to watch new blood. You stand behind a curtain of canvas, hard doing a convincing drum solo against your ribs. You're paired with another Retiarius, younger, skinnier. He looks at you like you might know what you're doing. You don't. A horn sounds. The curtain parts. You walk out into light. The crowd roars not for you, just for movement, any movement. They clap like they've been waiting for dessert and someone finally brought up the tray. You glance at the Emperor's box. It's empty. Thank Jupiter. This isn't that kind of day. Your opponent enters opposite you. A secutor, real armor, real gladius, real bad attitude. The announcer calls names you don't recognize, probably your stage name. Something dramatic, like Aquila or Spina. You hope it doesn't mean soggy fish. The fight begins. It's supposed to be mock combat. Supposed to be. But everyone here has something to prove. The net is heavy in your hand. You twirl it once, then swing wide. It misses. He charges. You duck. Roll. Come up fast. Dagger out. He blocks. The shield is massive. He slams it into your shoulder. You fall. Sand in your mouth. Heat on your back. You twist. Roll again. Throw. The net from the ground. It loops his legs. A fluke. But it works. He stumbles. You're up before you realize it. Dagger forward. You slash his thigh, not deep. Just dramatic. The crowd cheers. He kicks free. Growling under his helmet. He swings. You duck. He charges. You sidestep. You throw. The net again, misses this time. It tangles round your arm. You drop it. Cursing silently and retreat. You're both panting. Now, he looks tired. You feel like a melted wax statue. Your dagger is slippery in your hand. You fake left. Then throw a handful of sand at his face. Cheap? Absolutely. Effective? Also yes. He stumbles. You jab. He yields. The announcer bellows. The crowd erupts. You're alive. You're pulled off stage quickly. A medic dabs at your arm, small cut. You're handed a cloth soaked in vinegar to wipe your face. The vinegar stings. Your eyes tear. It's oddly refreshing. You're marched back to the barracks with applause still echoing in your ears. No one looks at you. No one claps. This is normal. No time for a celebration. You're alive today. That's the only scoreboard that counts. Dinner is bread and lentils again. You eat with both hands, fast, like it might vanish if you look away. A fly lands on your wrist. You ignore it. Dignity is optional. In your cell. You peel off the tunic. Your shoulder is bruised. Your ribs are sore. You lie on the straw mat with your arms outstretched, staring at the ceiling like it might have answers. You fought. You didn't die. Tomorrow, you fight again. And the net, it's still wrapped round your ankle. You don't even bother untying it. You don't even remember falling asleep. But you remember waking, because this time it's not footsteps or food that greet you, it's music, flutes, faintly. Somewhere outside, a festival is starting, which would be pleasant. Except for the part where your personal itinerary involves a violent reenactment of hand-to-hand suffering. You sit up slowly. The aches have settled into a new routine: dull pain in your lower back, stiffness in your left ankle, a persistent throb near your collarbone that pulses with every heartbeat like a tiny reminder. You live here now. The corridor is quiet for once. To quiet, that means something unpleasant is coming. You brush straw off your arm and slip into the tunic hanging by your door. This one's cleanish, smells slightly of soap and vinegar. Always vinegar. When the guard arrives, he doesn't yell. He just nods. That's how you know today is special. You follow in silence, flanked by a few other retiarii. No talking. Just the rhythmic shuffle of sandals on stone and the occasional cough. You reach the prep room and find it filled with activity. Not chaos, just the brisk, purposeful energy of people who know what's about to happen and are trying not to think about it too much. Your first task, strip. Again, the linen comes off. You're inspected again. A new medicus this time, younger. Cleaner, he pokes at your shoulder, makes a face, then nods as if to say you'll last at least an hour. Armor is distributed like party favors at the world's worst birthday. You get a fresh manic arm guard. Leather, stiff. You're told to. Earl it yourself. The oil smells like old olives and disappointment. You rub it in until the leather stops creaking like an old boat. Your net's been repaired. Someone even stitched your name well. Your arena name into the edge in red thread. It's crooked but clear. You're officially someone. Or something. A gladiator with branding. Your dagger is sharper than usual. That might be good. Or it might mean you're being sent into a harder match. Either way, you rehearse your grip 3. Fingers tight, one loose, thumb on the hilt. The instructor taught you that during a rare moment of generosity, right before he tripped you into a wall, before the fight, there's a ritual, not religious, bureaucratic. You're paraded through the halls with the others, past an official who nods and marks your name on a wax tablet. That's how you know this one counts. This fight is recorded. You're led into a chamber with columns and painted frescoes depicting battles far bloodier than anything you want to recreate. There's fruit on the table. Not for you, for the nobles who'll watch. You, a man in a red tunic, approaches. He's important to clean, to quiet. He offers you a cup, watered wine. Not enough to dull anything. Just enough to stop your lips from cracking mid-roar. Then the priest arrives again. Different this time. Older. Wiser. He blesses your blade. Your net. Your feet. You are not sure why your feet, but you accept it. Out in the arena minor, not the Colosseum. But still a theater big enough to make your ears ring. You're greeted by shouting. Not cheers, just noise. The crowd doesn't know you. But they want to, for a few minutes, at least, until you fall. Or they get bored. You walk out under the sun. The sand is pale, freshly raked. It sticks to your toes like it's trying to hold you back, across from you, a new secutor, bigger than the last one, scar under one eye, a helmet with no slits, just a narrow band to breathe through. The announcer calls your name. You pretend it means something. You lift your net. The crowd watches. Fight. He lunges. You dodge. Net up. He knocks it away with his shield. You circle. He's fast, too fast. You try a low throw. It hits his knee but slides off. You retreat. Dagger ready. The first real clash sends a jolt through your wrist. Your dagger bounces off his shield like a pebble on a door. He responds with a body check that sends you tumbling. Sand in your mouth again. That familiar flavor of humiliation and grit. You scramble. He's already on you. You roll. Net flying. It tangles his arm. Belly. You pull. He stumbles. You leap up and drive your dagger toward his ribs. He twists just enough. It lands, scrapes armor, draws a line of red. The crowd gasps. A good sign. Hard to tell. You're panting. He's panting. You both reset. The referee, yes. There's a referee waves you on. Second round. You wait. Let him charge. He does. You sidestep. Net up. Higher this time. It catches shoulder to elbow. A clean snag. You pull hard. Throw your weight into it. He falls to one knee. You dash forward, blade in hand. He raises his arm to block. You slash low. Just above the boot line, he howls. The announcer steps in. Crowd noise swells. He yields. Just like that. It's over. You drop your net. Drop the blade. Your arms fall to your sides. Your legs vibrate. Your whole body feels like a struck drum. You're pulled aside. A medic dabs your temple with a cloth. Someone presses a fig into your hand. Reward. Maybe. You chew it like it's a blessing. It sticks to your teeth. Backstage, a trainer claps your shoulder. You wince. He doesn't notice. The walk back to the Lotus is quiet. You're not limping. Exactly. But one leg has clearly entered a protest phase. Your tunic clings to you. You can feel the sting. Where the blade grazed your ribs, already bruising. Dinner tonight is one. That's how you know you did well. Lentils with onion, bread with oil. You eat slowly, like you might not get this again for a while, because you might not. One trainee nods at you across the table. Respect. Or fear, or both. You nod back. In your cell. The straw feels less awful. You stretch out, stare at the ceiling. That same crack, it's grown. Or maybe your imagination has. Remember that first day. The tunic that didn't fit, the net you tripped over. They're still here. So are you? Barely. Morning comes not with a horn or a shout, but with a knock. 3 slow taps on the metal grate, followed by silence. You sit up, blinking. No clang, no bark commands. Just that eerie, polite knock, as if someone up there is checking to see if you're still alive before they bother. You shuffle to the bars, peering out. A younger guard, new face. Less skull nods at you and gestures up. No explanation. That's the trend lately. You dress quickly, pulling on the tunic that was left folded at the end of your mat. It smells fresher than usual, which means either it's been washed, or someone else died in it recently and it's been rotated into circulation. You choose not to think about it. Outside, the morning air is cool. Not fresh. Nothing in this place is fresh, but it hasn't yet been. Thickened by sweat and cooking fires. The training yard is still empty. That's when you realize this isn't a normal training day. You're being taken somewhere. The guard leads you, not to the palestra, but out through a side passage you haven't used before. The walls here are older, less polished. The torches are dimmer. You feel the cold before you see the gate. It's iron, massive, and it leads underground. You know what this is. The Espio and the place where the bodies go after the arena. It's not supposed to be part of your tour. But here you are. The guard says nothing. Just opens the door and lets you pass. You hesitate, then step inside. The hallway slopes down. The air grows colder, heavier, and more metallic. It smells like rust, damp stone, and the stale end of pain. Your sandals scrape softly with each step. You hear nothing else. Just your own breathing. At the bottom, there's another chamber. Low ceiling, a table, a few tools, hooks on the wall. No one is here right now, but everything about this space hums with the memory of what it does. This isn't punishment. It's education. You're being shown the end of the line. A soft cough behind you. Another guard has arrived. Older, bored. He gestures to a slab in the middle of the room. On it lies a man. Or what used to be a man. Gladiator, helmet still, on, face partially obscured, deep cut across the side, stomach wound. Dried blood in a bloom round the navel. This is where you go. The older guard says, not unkindly, if you lose to slow. That's all. Then he motions for you too. Follow him back out. It's not about scaring you. Not exactly. It's about making sure you don't forget that this isn't theater. It's not a game. The costumes are real. The weapons are sharp. The applause is conditional. Back in the Lotus. The day proceeds like any other. Drills, sparring. Bread that could double as a weapon. But everything feels slower now. You carry that cold room in your spine. Later, a messenger arrives from the arena staff. You're summoned not for a fight, for a walk, a parade of swords. You and several others are marched through the streets of Rome, past vendors and beggars, children shouting your name, your arena name, not your real one. You wave. Sort of. It's expected. You wear your training gear, minus the weapons, symbolic, harmless, a performer in a strange civic ritual. But people love it. Some toss things, some throw petals. One man yells "Die pretty," and laughs like it's a compliment. You pass the forum, the baths, the temples. The scale of it all is almost enough to make you forget the rash forming under. You're on guard, almost by the time you return. The sun is setting. You're handed a token, a wooden disc stamped with your arena mark, a small gesture. But it means you've moved up the ranks. You're being noticed. The Lannister doesn't say congratulations. He just nods. That means more. Honestly, dinner is richer tonight. Beans with garlic. Real garlic. You can smell it halfway down the hall. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. Because you know this is fleeting. Afterward, you wash alone. A privilege. The water is warm. Not hot, not clean, but warmer than usual. You let it run over your arms, across your bruises, down your spine. The basin has a small crack in it now. You run your finger along it, absent-mindedly. Back in your cell. The mat feels familiar. Your limbs settle into their usual aches. Your fingers twitch from reflex net grip, dagger grip, block stance. Your body is learning, whether you like it or not. Above your head, carved into the stone, are faint scratches, notches, a tally, maybe. You trace one of them with your nail. You wonder how many belonged to someone who didn't come back from the spoliarium, and you wonder how many are yours. You wake up mid-dream, your hand still gripping an invisible dagger, your breath caught, halfway through a silent scream. It takes a moment to realize you're not in the arena, just your cell, just the straw, just the same damp air, and your tunic twisted round your legs like a half-hearted noose at your body. Is sore in a familiar way, now less shocking, more expected. You move carefully, one muscle at a time, the way you've learned to after days of punishment disguised as training. The guard outside the cell glances in, then moves on. You're not the new guy anymore. Today, there's a different energy in. The Lodis, a heaviness, less shouting, more murmurs. One of the veterans died yesterday, not in the arena, not dramatically, just quietly, in his sleep. Curled up under his mat like he was trying to disappear. No one speaks about it directly, but you all know. His cell is already occupied by a new recruit. Life here moves on with the precision of a well-oiled guillotine. Training starts the same. Run the perimeter, drill the stances, fall in line. But something changes mid-morning. You're pulled aside again and sent toward a small yard. A different kind of instruction. This one is less about stabbing and more about style. Yes, style. A man is waiting there, dressed in a red-trimmed toga. His beard curled like he sculpted it with purpose. He doesn't shout. He speaks softly, clearly. He explains that part of a gladiator's job isn't just survival, it's performance. You're not a soldier. You're a spectacle. He teaches you how to fall dramatically, how to raise your arms to the crowd after a strike, how to make a wound look worse than it is. He shows you how to drag a limp leg convincingly, how to spit blood when available, and when not available, how to fake it with wine and crushed berries. People want a story. He says, make them believe they're watching gods. You nod, or try to. It feels wrong. But everything here does. Later, you're told to watch some of the veterans spar. Not to fight, just to observe, to study. You lean against the stone, arms crossed, and watch two men, one tall, one limping, move through a mock battle that looks like ballet with bruises. They time their hits. They fake grunts. They glance at the crowd before each move. It's more dance than combat. But it works. It draws gasps, cheers, corns. One of them sees you watching and gives a wink. He has gold teeth, probably not originally his. Lunch today is cold lentils, no bread. A punishment for someone's mistake, distributed evenly like shame in a family. You eat in silence, the mush turning to paste in your mouth. Your jaw barely doing the work. After lunch, more drills. But now, you're aware of your posture. You hold the dagger differently. You add flair to your net throw. You yell when you strike, not because you feel like it, but because it sells the moment. You're becoming part athlete, part actor. Neither paid. Later that evening, you're summoned to the tablinum, the office of the Lonista. You assume you're in trouble, but when you arrive, he's drinking watered wine and inspecting a scroll. He glances at you and grunts. You're being loaned out. You blink, loaned, to a banquet. He adds, as if that clarifies anything, you're escorted out of the Ludus, not through the arena gates this time, but toward a villa, a senator's home. They say, someone important, someone bored. They want entertainment. A few gladiators in costume, some mock fights, something exotic between the courses. You arrive just before dusk. The villa is massive. Marble columns, tiled, floors, mosaics of gods and monsters and men wrestling lions in artful contortions. You walk past laughing guests, all silk and perfume and soft hands gripping goblets. They look at you like you're part of the decor. You and two others perform in the courtyard. No real fighting, just practiced movements, poses. Slow-motion combat that ends with one of you sprawled theatrically in a bed of flower petals. The crowd claps. Vaguely. Later, someone hands you a skewer of roasted meat. Lamb, maybe. It's tender, hot, real seasoning. The first real food you've tasted in days. You eat it slowly. Knowing it's not meant for you, a woman offers you wine. You take one sip. It's sweet and cold and reminds you too much of a life that feels like someone else's dream. You're not allowed to linger. You're escorted back before the guests get too drunk, before someone decides they want more from the entertainment. Back through the city's side streets, past the closed stalls, past the silent statues. You return to your cell well past midnight. Your straw mat welcomes you with its usual scratchy indifference. You lie down, belly full but heart oddly empty. Tonight, you tasted the other Rome, the soft one, the rich one. But you don't belong there. You're just a ghost in their theater. And ghosts don't get curtain calls. This time, you don't wake with a jolt. You wake with a slow, creeping soreness, like your body is gently reminding you it's still upset about yesterday. You shift on the mat. Something in your back makes a sound. Possibly your spine, possibly the straw. You try to sit up, but your shoulder protests. So does your knee. You take a deep breath, and the air tastes faintly of vinegar, sweat, and ash. Classic Gladiator blend. Outside the cell, footsteps approach. Heavy, deliberate. It's the medicus. He doesn't smile. He rarely does. He points at you, then at a woodman stool just outside your cell. You hobble over and sit. He starts his inspection. You don't flinch anymore when he presses on the bruises. You just brace for the shrug. Today, the shrug is slower, still alive. He mutters, belly. He wipes your shoulder with a cloth soaked in something, then smears on a thick salve that smells like pine and fermented onions. You are not sure if it's medicine or punishment, possibly both. He notices your limp, lifts your leg, inspects the swelling near the ankle, taps it twice with his knuckle. Too much strain, he says. Rest. You stare at him. Rest. He shrugs again. Or not. Doesn't matter. He moves on to the next patient. You shuffle back into your cell and sit on the mat, confused. No drills today. No spine. No dust in your lungs before breakfast. You glance at the bowl of food someone's left, barley porridge again. With a suspicious swirl of something green, you eat it slowly, unsure what the day wants from you. By mid-morning, the yard is still mostly empty. A few other wounded men limp around, stretching, adjusting their gear. No official training today. Rest day. though no one says it aloud, probably because it sounds too hopeful. You lie back on the mat and close your eyes, just for a moment. But rest doesn't mean peace. The door creaks. The god appears again, this time with a new man behind him, dressed richly, rings on every finger. A merchant, by the look of him. He glances into the cells like he's shopping. You sit up as his gaze lands on you. He pauses, raises an eyebrow. This one. He asks the Lonista. The Lonista shrugs. They speak. Briefly, you catch fragments. Demonstration, private gathering, display of form. You are being borrowed. Again, not this time. Not for a banquet, for something more personal. You're escorted out of the Lotus, into a litter and carried through narrow back streets until you reach a small domus with a courtyard and a stone fountain shaped like a dolphin. The dolphin is missing a nose. Inside, 3 men are waiting, well-dressed, well-fed. 1 woman, 2 younger, laughing into her cup. You're handed a net and dagger. The host explains that they'd like to see a technique showcase. You wonder if they understand that you're a person. You go through the motions, slow movements, twirls of the net, dagger flourishes. It's theater again, but with no Rena to hide in. They applaud politely, occasionally whispering critiques. He's leaner than I expected. More scars, though. That's authentic. Do the thing with the net again. You do the thing with the net again. They're drinking wine and throwing olives at each other by the time you're dismissed. One of them tosses you a coin. You catch it. Because old habits die harder than you probably will. The coin clinks in your hand. It's copper. Not enough to matter. Back in the Lotus, the gods say nothing. You're not the only one who's been loaned out today. One of the others returns limping, eyes unfocused. No one asks. That evening, you soak your ankle in a shallow bowl of cold water. The swelling hasn't gone down. You wrap it in a strip of linen, torn from an old tunic. The medicus won't have time for you again until after the next real match. As night falls, you overhear two trainees whispering about the arena rota, the rotation of upcoming fights. There's a name on the board now. Yours. In 2 days. Real combat. Not a showcase, not a drill. You try to sleep, but your body won't let you. The mat is uneven, the air's thick, your ankle pulses. Your mind replays everything that struck that. Missed, the net that slipped, the dagger that didn't land. It loops endlessly. Your body trapped in a rehearsal for a death that hasn't happened yet. And then, the cramp is sudden. Twisting pain in your calf. You seize up, breath caught, leg rigid. You bite your lip so hard it stings. The pain slowly ebbs. You stretch it out, breathing shallow, trying not to wake the others. You lie back, stare at the ceiling again. That crack is widened now. Or maybe your eyes are just getting better at finding flaws in stone. The tunic clings to your back, your fingers curl and uncurl, flexing out the nervousness. You count your breaths, you count the sounds. 1 drip from the corridor, 1 snore from the next cell, 1 whisper from a voice you can't place. You wanted to be a gladiator. You're starting to understand what that really means. And you're starting to wonder how many more cracks this ceiling can grow before something finally falls. You wake to the sound of cheering. It takes a moment to remember that the cheering isn't for you. It never is. It's echoing from above the arena, which means today is a game day, which means the city is hungry, not for food, but for spectacle, for blood, for you. You sit up slowly. Your body protests, but that's the new normal, you know. Longer expect comfort. You just ask your limbs to cooperate long enough to keep you upright. The straw on your mat crunches under your weight, gritty and vaguely warm. Like it's trying to be helpful. It isn't. A guard stops by your cellar and slides in a new tunic. It's dark red this time, dyed. Not from blood, but from cheap ochre dye. You hope. That color means today's performers are known. You're officially someone the crowd might recognize now. Congratulations, you've become disposable. At scale, you pull the tunic on. It's too snug across the shoulders. The fabric scratches your ribs. A subtle reminder that status here is never comfortable. You eat the same mushy barley from the same bowl as always. It tastes like disappointment and mild despair. But there's something different waiting for you today. Posters. They single quotes ray hung along the corridor walls. Woodblock prints, painted quickly in red and black. They show figures in battle poses, caricatures. Really, muscles exaggerated, faces stylized, names in bold. You spot yours. Well, your stage name. Aquila. The print shows you mid-leap. Net flying, dagger poised. Your hair is wrong. Your body shape is wrong. But the crowd won't know. This is the version they'll cheer for. Or against. It doesn't matter. You touch the poster's edge. It's still damp from paint. You wonder if the artist knows you're real. Later, his scribe approaches. He's young, too clean to be trusted. He carries a small wax tablet and a quill. He asks if you'd like to authorize your likeness from merchandise, clay figurines, cups, mosaics. If things go well, you blink at him. If you survive today, he says with the casual tone of a man talking about the weather, you will be marketable. You scratch your name into the wax, not your real name. Your arena name, the one that belongs to the version of you drawn on the wall. Training today is short and shallow, a warm-up. More stretching than sparring. The Lanista doesn't want injuries. Before a money match, he watches you closely, as if calculating your shelf life. You manage the drills. You favor your bad ankle. No one calls it out. Lunch is a fig and cheese, a luxury. That confirms it. Today's match is important. You chew slowly, trying not to look like you're enjoying it too much. Pride here is rationed carefully. Midday, a messenger arrives. You're summoned not to the arena. Not yet, but to a chamber behind the Polvener, the Emperor's box. You will be fighting in the mid-show slot. Not the opener, not the finale, but right in the center, prime time. You're escorted through tunnels that smell of oil and stone and anticipation. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes. Only the crowd's distant rumble reminds you that Rome is watching. Inside the chamber, you're offered water, real water, cold, clear. You drink it to fast and cough. The god chuckles, not unkindly. You're prepped. Your net is checked and re-knotted. The weights are cleaned. Your dagger is wiped and honed. Your manicure is tightened with rough fingers that don't care if your arm goes numb. Your painted lightly red streaks on your cheeks, symbolic war marks. You look like someone else now. Across from you, your opponent is being dressed. Executor, of course. They always pair you with those. Heavy armor, enclosed helmet, his shield gleams even in the torchlight. You glance at his hands' thick fingers, steady grip. Not new to this. You nod at him. He nods back, as strange. Quiet moment of mutual understanding. We are here to hurt each other so strangers can feel something. Then the curtain parts. Light pours in. Sand reflects it back at you like heat from a fire. You squint. You breathe through your mouth. The air tastes of blood and crushed petals and roasted meat. You step out into the noise. It swells, rolls over you like a wave. The announcer calls your name, Aquila, and the crowd responds. You don't know if it's cheers or jeers. It blends into a roar. The secutor enters opposite. His helmet gleams. His shoulders rise and fall with steady breath. He does not look afraid. You do not feel brave. The horn sounds. He charges. You throw the net. He ducks. The net flies wide. You pull it back fast. He slams his shield forward. You leap to the side. Sand kicks up round you. You feel it between your teeth. You circle. He charges again. You dodge. You swing the net low, catch his shin. His stumble. You dash forward. Dagger out. He recovers too quickly. The blade grazes his side. Not enough to cut. You retreat. The crowd chants something. You can't make it out. You think it's your name. Or maybe his. Or maybe nothing at all. He raises his sword. You feint left. Roll right. You throw the net again. This time, it catches. Shoulder to hip. You pull hard. He's yanked off balance. You charge. Your dagger sinks into his thigh. He screams. The referee steps forward. The crowd waits. The secutor holds up a hand. He yields. Silence. Then eruption. You raise your hand. Because that's what they want. You try to look victorious. You try not to fall over. You're led off stage. Your dagger still warm. Your net dragging behind you like a cape made of exhaustion. In the chamber. America applies wine to your arm. You don't ask why. You just let it soak. Your hands are shaking. You press them to your knees until they stop. Later, you're handed a token. Bronze this time. You've moved up. Your name Aquila is now listed on the betting sheets in the forum. You walk back to the Ludus under a pink evening sky. The air smells of dust and citrus. Someone's cooking something far away. You wonder what it is. In your cell. The clay cup has been left for you. Your likeness, your stage faces carved onto the side. A prize, or a reminder. You hold it in both hands. You wanted to be a gladiator. Now the city knows your name. But you're still just one bad throw away from being a stain on the sand. The next morning greets you not with pain, but with a strange sense of quiet. Not peace. Rome doesn't offer that, but a hush in your muscles, as if your body knows not to protest today. You've earned a moment of stillness, and it's suspicious. Your cell is warm from the late sun filtering in through the high vents. The straw feels less checked. Your bruises have settled into dull badges of survival, and the cut along your side itches instead of stings. Progress, by gladiator standards. Someone left bread and cheese in your cell before sunrise. Not barley, not gruel. Actual bread, actual cheese. Not much, but enough. It tastes like a meal instead of a punishment. You chew slowly, deliberately, trying not to think of what that might mean. Then the whispering begins, not from guards, from the other gladiators. You hear it in passing. Banquet, senators, Aquila. Your arena name is being spoken like a story now. A name that lives outside the sand. By midday, the Lunester calls you to the tablinum. That's never casual. You walk there with your heart cautiously pacing. The room smells of wax, scrolls, and impatience. He doesn't look up, just gestures to a stool. You've got invitations, he says. Invitations, banquet appearances, sponsor requests. They want you. He rolls his eyes slightly, as if this is inconvenient paperwork. You're handed a list: names, dates, addresses. Apparently, senators and merchants want to feature you. Not to fight, to stand around looking dangerous, possibly to eat roasted quail and pose for mosaic references. It's hard to tell. You'll go to one tonight, he says, already done with the conversation. That evening, you're escorted to a domus near the Palatine Hill, a senator's home. The walls are painted with ocean-seen sea gods and ships and dolphins with unsettlingly human eyes. Inside, the guests are reclining on couches, laughing too loudly, gesturing with bronze cups. You walk in dressed in full gear, net on your shoulder, dagger on your hip, helmet tucked under your arm. A prop. Basically, they don't see you. They see the idea of you. Someone claps. There hears Aquila. A round of applause follows. It feels less like praise and more like someone cheering for their favorite dish being served. You're introduced round. Every conversation is the same. How many matches? How many wins? Have you met the Emperor? Do you fear death? You give vague answers. You've learned that ambiguity adds mystery. Mystery sells. They ask you to pose in front of a statue by the fountain, holding your dagger just so. One even tries to feed you grape. You decline. The woman from earlier, she was at the first banquet you performed, that she approaches again. This time she's bolder. She touches your net, as if it's made of silk instead of dried rope and anxiety. Is it true? She whispers. That you've never lost. You don't answer. The truth would ruin the image. The silence keeps it alive. Dinner is extravagant. Tables grown with figs, lamb, honey cakes, roasted fish, wine in silver goblets. You're allowed to eat this time, but not too much. You're still on display. You pick at a fig. It's sweet, soft. You haven't tasted sweetness in weeks. As the evening winds down, you're offered a small purse denary, enough for shoes, or a week's food, or a bribe. You take it. Back at the Ludus, you're let in through the side gate, quietly. The others are asleep. You pass rows of cells, some filled with men snoring, others empty. You don't ask why. Your cell feels smaller after the villa, the mat harder, the air rougher, but the cup is still there with your name, your face. You set the purse beside it. The next morning, the scribes arrive early. They want to document your likeness for a mural. You stand still while they sketch you holding your net, poised like a statue of Mars on casual Friday. One of the scribes asks, "Do you enjoy it?" You blink. Enjoy what? The arena. He says, "The fame." You consider lying instead. You say, "I enjoy being alive." He nods, as if that's poetic. It isn't. It's just honest. Later, you're granted a short walk outside the Ludus, supervised. Of course, you pass the market. A group of boys are playing with wooden swords. One pretends to be you, Aquila. He shouts, "Fear me." He swings wildly and knocks over a basket of olives. The vendor yells. The boy runs. The olives scatter like teeth on the stone road. You don't smile, but something in your chest shifts slightly. A warmth you don't trust. Back inside. It's another rest day. Your body welcomes it. You sit in your cell, watching the torchlight flicker against the wall. The cup glows faintly in the shadows. You think about the merchant who wanted your likeness, the senator who toasted you, the boy who shouted your name. You think about the secutor whose blood still stains your net. You think about the other name you don't use anymore, the one you were born with, and you wonder when the final fight comes whose name the crowd will chant. You wake to rain. Not the soothing kind that taps gently at windows. There are no windows. This rain slaps the roof of the Ludus in fact. Aggressive drops that echo down the corridor like someone knocking at every cell door at once. It smells metallic, earthy. Clean in a way the air inside never is. You inhale deeply, then regret it. There's also the faint smell of wet feet and damp linen. Still, it's something different. The rain means a change in plans. The arena is open air. Muddy footing makes the sand heavy, slippery, unpredictable. Not ideal for throwing nets or leaping dramatically. Your fight is delayed. You don't know whether to feel relieved or insulted. You pull your tunic tighter and press your back to the cool wall. Watching the ceiling drip, somewhere above. Pipe leaks into a crack. It makes a small rhythmic sound, like a bored musician playing the world's saddest flute. God appears. No fight today, but not a day of either. Instead, a visit from your sponsor. Yes, you have one now. You didn't ask for one. You didn't sign anything. But once your face shows up on coins, someone claims you. Your sponsor is a woman wealthy, veiled, distant. She has never spoken to you directly, until now. You're led to a shaded courtyard with a small fountain. It's still raining lightly, which means someone has to stand nearby with an oiled canopy to keep her dry. You're left, standing in the drizzle, a contrast she doesn't acknowledge. She gestures to a chair. You don't sit. I've seen you fight, she says, her voice like polished marble cold. Smooth, expensive. You move well, but you hesitate before you win. You blink. Unsure if that was praise or a threat, she goes on. The crowd loves you, but they don't adore you yet. She offers a thin smile. Would you like them to? You don't answer. You don't need to. She takes silence as agreement, as servant hands you a scroll of speech. Not yours, something written by someone who has never bled on sand. You're to recite it before your next match. It's part of a narrative now. You're a reluctant hero, a noble savage, a gift from Neptune, depending on the poet's mood. You tuck the scroll under your arm. You won't memorize it, but you'll pretend to that evening. You're sent to a new barracks, not for punishment, for promotion. It's closer to the training yard, with softer mats, better food and fewer rats. A reward, a trap. Same thing. Your fellow fighters notice the change. They don't comment. They don't have to. You're one of the favorites now. That doesn't mean safer. It just means more valuable when you fall. Your gear gets upgraded. Your net is reinforced with bronze weights shaped like fish. The dagger's hilt is wrapped in dyed leather blue to match your assigned persona. You are now the sea serpent. Nobody asked if you like the title. Your image begins showing up in strange places. Someone brings you a painted plate. Your face, your net, your dagger. On pottery. Another time. A street performer in the forum wears a helmet carved from wood and pretends to be you, tripping over his net and playing for laughs. Children throw coins. You hear a woman call out, "He's better than the real one." You don't correct her. By the end of the week, you're invited to a second-tier banquet, not senators this time, but clients of clients. You're seated at the edge of the atrium, next to a man who imports Egyptian perfume and won't stop explaining how he tames camels with just a whisper. You nod. You sip wine. You eat roasted chestnuts with honey glaze and feel the warm pull of sugar for the first time in months. Later, a young girl 8 or 9 approaches you with a scrap of parchment. "Will you draw your net for me?" she asks. Her father watches from nearby, nodding encouragingly. You draw a quick loop, some tangled lines, a dagger on one edge. She beams, as if you gave her something rare. You did. You gave her a part of someone you barely remember. The next morning, you're summoned for a portrait, not a sketch, a mosaic, one that will hang in the baths. You sit still for hours, watching the artist press bits of stone into wet plaster, slowly building your face from fragments. You wonder how many parts of you he'll get wrong. You wonder how many he'll improve. In the yard, some of the new recruits look at you differently now. They whisper. They practice your net throw. One mimics your footwork and falls into the sand with a grunt. He laughs. No one else does. You try to ignore the talk, but it clings to you. That night, one of the veterans, a Thracian, broad-shouldered, quiet, sits beside you and offers you a boiled egg. You take it. He says. You smile more now, you nod. It's not a smile, but it passes, he adds. That's how they know you're ready to die. You don't eat the egg. You lie awake that night, staring at the wooden ceiling of the upgraded barracks. There's a painted star above your bed, faded. Once bright blue, now just a smudge in the dark. The room smells of oil, leather, and damp stone. Your cup is still with you, tucked beside your mat. The coins you've earned are inside it. Enough to buy bread for weeks. Maybe enough to bribe a guard. Maybe enough to bury you with. The mural of your face will outlive your body. The girl with the parchment will forget your name. The gods won't care either way. You wanted to be a gladiator. Now you're a character. Just hope the story ends on a day the crowd is kind. You're dreaming of the ocean when the real world interrupts. Not the warm, blue sea from mosaics. Your sea is darker, greener, full of ropes and waves and the heavy scent of brine. In your dream, the net is dragging you under, and you let it. You wake to someone kicking your foot. Rise, the voices. Flat board. It belongs to a god you don't recognize, which probably means he's been promoted. You blink at the ceiling and the faded blue star. Then sit up. The room is dim. Early morning. Too early for training. Something's happening. You dress in. Silence. The tunic today is black. Not dyed. Just old. Stained. Faded. That alone is a signal this isn't a regular match. It's not for the crowd. It's internal. Political. The god doesn't explain. He just points. You follow through. Corridors you haven't seen before. Past doors you didn't know opened. Eventually, you reach a chamber that smells like sweat, wax, and judgment inside. 5 men, seated on folding chairs ranged in a crescent. They don't wear togas, they wear armor skulls. One has a twisted thumb, another is missing part of his nose. They are gladiator captains. They interview you not with words, but with stares. They assess your posture, your injuries, your record. One man flips through a scroll, another gestures for you to turn round. You do. Finally, one of them speaks to Flashy. He says, but clever. Could train the younger ones. The Lonista steps forward. He's on contract, not for sale. A pause. Then we'll borrow him. And just like that, you've been reassigned temporarily to the elite fighters. You're sent back to pack your things. Not that you have many. A second tunic, your dagger, dulled. The net, coiled neatly, heavy as guilt. The cup, of course. You don't leave that. The new quarters are closer to the arena itself. Cleaner, less crowded, but colder. Your new barrack. Mates are different. They don't speak as much. They don't joke. They wrap their hands with cloth even when not training. Their eyes are sunken in a way that doesn't come from sleep deprivation. It comes from being watched along by too many people and surviving anyway. One of them, a girl with arms like road bridges, sizes you up and says nothing. You nod. He nods. That's the full exchange. Training resumes. But this isn't about flair. It's about precision. The drills are faster. The instructors are crueler. You're struck across the shoulder for pausing a half second too long before a block. You bleed. No one reacts. You're retrained in formation shield lines, flanking runs, double matches. You're handed a short sword, just for practice. It's heavier than the dagger, but more forgiving. Still, you miss the balance of the blade you're used to. It felt like part of your hand. This one feels like a promise you don't want to keep. By midday, you're panting hard enough to taste iron. Your knees shake, your fingers twitch. A captain nods once. He'll hold. That evening, there's a knock at your door. not a god, a scribe. Again, this one carries a new scroll. You're being added to a special exhibition, a themed match, the myth of Neptune's wrath. You're playing Neptune's chosen, sea serpent, cloak included. They want drama. You're to rise from a shipwreck set and fight 3 pirates, in succession, all staged, sort of. The pirates are real fighters, but it's theater. Mostly. You ask when. Today's. They leave. You stare at the scroll. You look down at your hands. Calloused, bruised, familiar. You whisper, just once, sea serpent. It sounds ridiculous. You laugh. Just a breath. Then stop. The next day is preparation. Not fighting posing. You're taken to a painter. He sketches your portrait again. This time for the arena program. You stand with your foot on a broken helm. Net raised like it's lightning. He adds storm clouds. You suggest nothing. You just stand. After, you're allowed to walk the perimeter of the arena alone. Empty. Vast. The sand is raked clean. The seats are quiet. You walk slowly, imagining the roar. The sound of 50,000 people deciding if you're worthy of breathing. At the far end, you stop. A crack in the wall, tiny, but deep. You press your hand against the stone. It's warm from the sun, alive in a way you aren't. You think of your old cell, the scratch marks, the ceiling crack. You wonder if they were ever actually growing, or if it was just you shrinking. That night, in your new quarters, someone places a token on your bed. Small, bone, carved with the shape of a serpent. Not official, not assigned. A gift or a warning. You tuck it into your cup. With the others, you lie down, stare at the ceiling, and wait for the next chapter of your performance to begin. You wanted to be a gladiator. Now you're a legend in progress, one with no control over. The script. The day begins without ceremony. No extra rations. No dramatic announcements, just another bowl of warm mush and the quiet presence of 3 guards waiting outside your door. You know what this means. Today isn't for drills or parades. Today is for performance. Not a fight. Not exactly a story. You are the main attraction in a scripted myth the city thinks it invented. The wrath of Neptune. You're not Neptune, of course. You're his chosen beast, the sea serpent. You never agreed to the title, but it's already on posters, cups, and a mural in a public bath. Too late to argue. Your gear is waiting carefully prepared by someone you'll never meet. The net is heavier now, reinforced with bronze weights shaped like fish. The rope darker and freshly oiled. It coils in your hand like something alive. The dagger's hilt has been wrapped in blue leather, and the blade has a fine line etched. Down the center, just for show, a costume cloak drapes over your shoulders, dyed an unnatural ocean green, the fabric so thin it flutters in your breath. You stare at yourself in a polished bronze shield. You look less like a man and more like a myth in progress. The guards walk you through the lower halls of the Colosseum, past pillars painted with waves and sea gods. The corridors here are cool and dark, with the faint scent of wet stone and plaster dust. You arrive at a wooden platform under the arena floor. It's a lift, though no one calls it that. A stage prop, a trapdoor. Slaves crank it from below, slowly raising you into sunlight. The announcer's voice echoes down before the light hits your face. From the depths of the storm, the serpent rises. The crowd responds in a wave of cheers and laughter. They are already entertained. You rise through a stage set designed to resemble a broken ship sails torn. Timber scattered across the sand. Smoke from hidden braziers drifts around your feet. You try not to cough. The cloak catches the wind just right. You land on the sand with 1 foot forward, net high, dagger drawn, and you don't feel human. Not completely. You feel like something they've made up. The pirates enter one by one 3 men, bare-chested, heavily tanned, wearing belts with stage swords and exaggerated snarl expressions. You recognize 2 of them. One is older, a former champion who now trains recruits. He winks as he takes his place. The other 2 are younger, faster, showy. They circle you with wide steps, all timing and choreography. It's a dance, but it still hurts. The first clash comes with a clang of steel on shield. You deflect, dodge, swing the net wide and pull one off balance. The crowd loves it, you don't. Hear them? Not fully. You're inside the moment, sweating through the theatrics, lungs burning as you spin. Drop, strike. You land a hit to clean. The younger pirate stumbles, real blood blooming on his arm. Not deep, but not planned. The crowd gasps, then cheers louder. One goes down in a staged roll. Clutching his chest with perfect timing, another charges, and you feint left, dragging him into the ropes of the mocksail. He falls awkwardly, tangled. You raise the net above your head, backlit by smoke and sun, and for a second, the entire arena stands still. You bring it down slow, theatrical. The third man kneels, hand raised, submission. The match ends, not with a roar but with a wave of applause that feels oddly warm. You don't smile. You bow your head, as scripted, then turn and walk off the sand. The cloak drags behind you, the platform lowers again. The smoke clears. You leave the myth behind. Below. The medic is waiting. He cleans your scraped knee, mutters something about performance bruises, and pats your shoulder like you're a workhorse that didn't throw a shoe. Another servant hands you a small pouch, 3 silver coins, a bonus. You nod, tuck it away, and strip out of the costume. Back in your cell. Everything smells of smoke. Your arms ache. You wash your face in cold water and watch blue dye swirl into the basin. Someone down the hall is singing off key. Another is coughing hard. You lie back on the mat, still feeling the weight of the net in your hand, the taste of sand in your mouth, and the quiet truth underneath the pageantry. It might have been scripted, but you still had to survive it. You wanted to be a gladiator. Today, you became a symbol. But the gods in this story don't protect their monsters. They just rename them. There is no fanfare when you wake. No knock. No clatter. No special summons. Just the stillness of another morning. The kind that wraps, wound you like cold linen. The aches are all still there, some faded. Others settling in like old tenants, but your body is quieter today. Not healed, just used to the pain. You roll your shoulders, stretch your arms, test the ankle. Still tender, but it holds. Your tunic today is plain again, slightly damp from the morning's humidity. A bowl of lentils sits beside your mat, lukewarm, but seasoned. Maybe someone dropped a bay leaf in the pot by accident. You eat slowly, unbothered by the occasional stone under a tooth. You've learned that chewing too fast here is an act of reckless optimism. At mid-morning, you're called into the yard for review. Not drills, not sparring, just review. 3 instructors, all former champions, sit beneath a canopy with scrolls and wax tablets. They call your name, not your real one. Of course, Aquila. You step forward and stand as they list your fights, your wins, your recorded injuries. One of them raises an eyebrow when he reads the most recent notes. Sea serpent. Myth, showmanship excellent. Crowd response high. Possible future Primus. You don't flinch. You know what that means. You're being considered for a headline fight. A main event. The kind people bet their household gods over. The kind where the loser doesn't walk away. The Lanista joins them with a small wooden box. He opens it and pulls out a rudy's or wooden. Sword. You don't breathe. For a moment, just one impossible moment, you think he's offering it to you. That maybe this is it, your freedom. But it's not for you. It's for another man behind you. A murmillo who's fought for over a decade. He accepts the rudies with both hands, tears in his eyes. The instructors nod. The moment pauses. You return to your place in line. Later that afternoon, you're summoned not to the arena, but to the baths, real baths. Not the communal barrel where most of you marinate like pickled meat. These are for honored. Fighters, you're handed a clean tunic, fresh sandals, a sliver of soap. You soak in warm water under a painted ceiling, your limbs floating, your mind strangely quiet. No one speaks. Even the water is hushed. Someone brushes your arms with laughter. Another man scrapes a strigil across your back, removing sweat and dead skin and something else you can't name. Maybe fear, maybe memory. When you dress, you're a reflection in the bronze mirror, looks like someone else, someone with purpose. A man who lives by ritual, not chance. You're sent back through the side gate, where a courier waits with a scroll, sealed with wax. You break it open, an invitation, not for a banquet, for a meeting. Tomorrow, you're to dine with your sponsor, not as an ornament, but as a guest, an honored guest. The difference is subtle, but you feel it. The gods treat you differently now. They nod instead of grunt. One even says your name, your real name, quietly. You don't correct him. You just nod back. That night, you sit on your mat with the oil lamp burning low, turning the bronze coin in your hand. On one side, Neptune with a trident on the other. Your face a little off, but recognizable. You remember the crowd's roar, the way they chanted your name. Not like they were cheering for a fighter, like they were cheering for a storm dot, the man across the hole, a new recruit with a stitched up lip asks if it's true what they say, that you've never lost, that you're part god. You tell him no, but you say it softly. When the lights go out and the barracks hum with sleep, you lie awake and listen to the rain beginning again outside. A soft tapping on the roof tiles, like a reminder, tomorrow, you will sit at a senator's table, speak with your mouth full of honeyed wine, and pretend you understand politics tomorrow. You will be more than a gladiator, but tonight, you're still just a man who knows how to bleed without flinching. You wanted this, you did. Didn't you? The villa is too quiet for its size. You can feel the silence before you reach the gate, a kind of padded stillness that settles between the marble columns and perfumed shadows. The gods who escort you are dressed in ceremonial gear, their bronze armor polished to an almost theatrical shine. You, on the other hand, are wearing the finest tunic you've ever been handed, soft linen, dark blue, freshly laundered, but the sandals still pinch. No one seems to care that you limp slightly as you walk. Inside, the floors are covered in mosaics that cost more than your life. Gods, animals, naval victories. One image near the atrium shows Neptune rising from the sea, arms wide, mouth open in command. You wonder if it's new, if it's been added because of you. Your sponsor waits in the triclinium, reclining at the head couch like a figure carved into the wall. She doesn't rise when you enter, but she gestures you to sit beside her in honor. Apparently, the table between you is covered in small dishes, olives, fish soaked in herbs, a bowl of fresh figs so ripe they're splitting open at the seams. You haven't eaten anything this colorful in months. You've become valuable, she says, without preamble, and value must be protected or used. Her voice is cool, even the kind that never needs to shout to command a room. You are not just a fighter now, you're an asset. Do you understand what that means? You nod slowly, chewing a fig that tastes like something stolen from a temple. She leans in. You'll headline next month's Imperial Games. It's not a question. It's not a gift. It's a sentence. You've heard rumors about the Imperial Games. High visibility, political guests, foreign dignitaries, and sometimes, just sometimes, the Emperor himself. No one survives those fights by accident. Everyone is chosen for a reason. You're either a rising symbol or a falling one. You'll be matched against a bestiarius, she continues. They say he tames lions with his breath. I say he's a thug with theatrics. She waves a hand dismissively, but dangerous still. Good for spectacle. You swallow hard. The sweetness of the fig sticks in your throat. She taps the table twice. If you win, I'll back your release. Your head turns slowly. You'll be free, she says, as if it costs her nothing. She means the rudies, the wooden sword, the symbol of emancipation, the final reward. Not handed out lightly, but it's not a promise. It's leverage. She offers it like a carrot or a collar. Dinner continues. You're not in the right places. Answer simple questions, yes. The training is hard. Yes, the crowd's energy helps. No, you don't miss your old life. She seems satisfied with your performance, because this, too, is a kind of fight. When you leave the villa, your breath is visible in the early night air. The moon is high. The torchlight is dim. You walk slowly, trying to make sense of what just happened. You're being raised up, polished like a coin, dangled over the edge of a sword's point, and for what? A wooden sword. The lattice feels different when you return. Quieter, smaller. You pass your old cell and pause. Just for a second. Someone else is there now, hunched on the straw, trying to sleep through hunger. You remember that feeling. You still carry it in your ribs. You settle in the newer quarters. The bed is wider. The mat is softer. There's a curtain for privacy. But you don't close it. You stare at the ceiling. The wood beam above your head has 3 notches carved into it, previous occupants' counting days. Or victories, or prayers. You run your fingers over your own cup, the one with your face on it. The net, the dagger, the show, the lie, tomorrow. You begin training for the last fight, or the next last fight. It's hard to tell now. Every fight feels final. Every meal feels like the one before the gods decide your story is done. You think back to the first day, the scratchy tunic, the cold sand, the silence of the other men. You were scared. You're still scared. You just hide it better. Now, you're the one they talk about, the one they bet on, the one they sketch on walls and whisper about in corridors. But underneath it all, you're still the same. One breath, one bruise, one mistake from being erased. You wanted to be a gladiator. Now you are something else. Something made, marketed, named. But you still bleed. You still limp tomorrow. You'll fight again. Tonight you've traveled far through blood and dust and the quiet thoughts that follow applause. You've stood beneath marble arches and underground stone, worn armor both real and symbolic, and played your part on a stage that never forgets. But for now, that stage fades, the lights dim, the crowd thins to nothing. You're no longer the sea serpent or the prized fighter. You're just someone lying still in the quiet, breathing softer with each thought that drifts. Your muscles have stopped tensing. The net, the dagger, the sand, they're all somewhere far from here, resting in another world. A world that doesn't need your attention right now. The aches melt slowly, like candle wax, losing their edge. The weight on your chest lifts. Even your name, both the one you were born with and the one they gave you, can rest now. Neither is needed in this place. You hear the soft crackle of torchlight, the distant echo of sandals on marble, the imagined roar of a crowd that's grown too faint to matter. The story has paused, the myth has gone quiet, and in the stillness, you feel something precious return, something small and human and yours, a breath you didn't know you'd been holding, a thought that no longer needs defending. The mat beneath you is no longer straw, it's soft, warm, familiar. Your fingers are loose, your jaw relaxed. Nothing is coming for you now. Nothing is asked of you. The game is over for tonight, doth so rest, Gladiator. You've carried enough weight. Tomorrow belongs to the world again. But tonight, your story can sleep, and as you slip deeper into quiet, be grateful for the warm bed beneath you, for the roof above, and for the simple fact that here, you can rest without being watched.